So today's podcast is part 2 about listening in on a purple conversation. Laurie Safford, whose views and political beliefs are on the right, has agreed to have a purple conversation with Armand, who, for those who are new to this podcast, leans to the left and has made a commitment to be purple, which means you can have different political ideas and beliefs, but in a respectful and civil way to those that think differently than you. So enjoy today's podcast.
Martin Luther King championed the civil rights movement. This is the Right to Be Civil movement.
Y'all wanna know who you voted for? So they can let you in or show you the door. She votes left and he votes right. It's a hell of a recipe for a holiday fight.
From our recording studio in Castleberry, Florida, and our production house in Coral Springs, you're listening to the Purple Evolution Podcast.
I don't know any left people, I don't know any right people. We're all different shades of humanity. I don't know any red people, I don't know any blue people. We're all different shades of humanity.
My name is Doug Halper, and with your permission, I will be your guide on a journey through all things purple regarding the coexistence of human beings on this wonderful planet we call home. The creator of the Purple Evolution, my friend and our host, is Armand Della Volpe, who for over 40 years has been dedicated to being a stand for love. Along with his bride Angelina, Armand has stood true to this commitment through the mediums of public speaking, performing songwriter, TV and radio appearances, magazine and book publishing, personal counseling, and now the world of podcasting. Please help me welcome my favorite civil servant, or more aptly put, servant for civility, Armand.
And Laurie.
And in my opinion, I also think that the fear that, we always have a fear. Y'all were afraid when Trump got in. Now we're afraid that, Biden's in. And he said in October of 2020 that only dictators rule by the pen. And he's already at 40 signing of the pen. The Keystone Pipeline, 11,000 people lost their jobs that day, and there are people that had moved out there. And it's not that we're stopping Canadian crude from coming into the country. We're still bringing it by, what are the rigs? The big, it's still coming. It's just that we're not, creating the jobs. We're not, and we had, I believe I saw a statistic that of all of the industrialized countries, we came in number 1 for the lowest emissions. So, and I heard that, well, all these people, they can just, start making solar panels. Well, I think that's belittling to people that are construction workers. They're not just, day workers. These are $100,000 to $200,000 paying jobs. And just to say, and some of them are 60 years old. Well, you're just going to be able if you can dig in a coal mine, you can go and become a computer programmer, or you can take this particular trade and go build, solar panels. Where are you going to get these jobs from? And I do think that as much as Trump was hated, the economy grew by leaps and bounds in people that had been disadvantaged for years. It was the highest ever for the Black American community, the Hispanic community, not the highest for women, but the highest in 75 years. And so when you look at that, and that's where I'm like, look at what people do versus what they say. And very hard when you hear things, and, I get that. But I'm like, we were energy independent meaning I don't have to be afraid that, Iran's going to, hold this over me, or Saudi Arabia's, they're going to be attacked. Not that we wouldn't be, but, you're in a much better position to be energy independent and not have to worry about, I think, China has already threatened Taiwan. Taiwan is a democracy that wants to be free. And I think that I think they're testing Biden to see what he will do. I think that for the first time ever, never in my lifetime did I ever think we'd have peace in the Middle East. And that's why that Trump was up for 3 Nobel Peace Prizes, which nobody thought he would win. I think just because of, the people in power don't like him. And one thing I will disagree with you about, the powers of be, which I can't really disagree, because if he's president, he's president. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna go insurrect and he's not my president. But we are the powers to be. We put them there. These legislatures, how I saw them like just intimidating these people. We put you there and we can take you out. And that's how I think the message is that sounds violent if you take it out of context, but what I mean in 2022, you can bet that I'm going down the list that everybody who said to impeach Trump, and I'm voting them out. Or you tell me you're doing this and you did that, you're out. And that's what I mean. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people, the rhetoric comes out when you just piecemeal that. Like, Doug could edit this to a way that, Laurie was saying, well, I'm going to take them out. I'm not going to literally take them out, but they're not going to be in power anymore as far as I have to do with it.
And I agree. And I think that's our job. And I think that's what I meant by the powers that be. We voted for them just like the electors. We voted for them as a country. They did the job we paid them to do. 25 to 30% do not like the way they did it in this election, but they did it. Now, like you said, the powers that be are back in our hands in the 2022 election, and then we have to do our job again. But what I meant by powers to be is they were given that power. They did their job. How can we move on?
Right. And I think it's also a part of a non-education point of, not that people aren't educated, but in the point that the Senate and the governors don't make voting laws. The legislatures, the Congress, the Constitution only gives it to the legislator to make election laws. And governors and senators took it upon themselves, state senates, to change the laws and blame the virus, the pandemic.
And I don't know enough about.
And that is what a lot of people don't know. And the only reason I know is because I was listening to the hearings and stuff like that. And then I looked it up, and a lot of people don't know the Constitution. It's not taught anymore in schools, and it needs to be. We are an experiment that works. And the people who say, it's a living document. Well, Abraham Lincoln, when he was freeing the slaves, used the Constitution to say this is why. They were imperfect people. Slavery was all over the world when those people we are endowed by God, by our Creator. Many of the founding fathers wanted to end slavery and knew that that was going to be okay. That's where it's like in the making of the sausage. And I don't mean that to be as slight as it is. Obviously slavery is evil. But even Dr. Martin Luther King used the Constitution to win the civil rights movement. So I think that is an important document. You have to have something to hold on to and to look at, or you're just going to flail in the wind. It's like that country song, you got to believe in something or you'll believe in everything or whatever. But I do think that that's part of the problem, is that people don't know what the laws are, and that people just listen to the media. And I'm just as guilty as anybody. If it's someone I like and they say it, I'm like, right on. But it's, I really think that that's where when I started listening to Fox News, who I like, and they were saying things that piqued my ear, and I'm like, I just can't imagine that person would say that, is when I fell into YouTube. And I decided that, and this is the first year ever, and Doug will tell you, I defended W to the hilt, and I still love him. I'm not pleased with the hypocrisy of saying that you shouldn't question a sitting president. So that's why he would never say anything about Obama, but he felt freely to come out and criticize Trump. That angers me and makes me, doesn't anger me, it makes me sad for him and let down.
I can see that.
Which goes to see that you really shouldn't put your faith in any individual. Anybody, you know, you put anybody on a pedestal, they're going to get off and or fall off. And I think that he may have had every reason to do that, but I think Obama, if you look back, I mean, I don't want to say crucified, but I mean, you know, everything about Bush. I mean, they used to call it Bush derangement syndrome, and, you know, and attacked him about his golf games. And, you know, and then he's out playing golf. And the same thing, you know, well, Trump, you know, criticized Obama for playing golf. Here he is playing golf or whatever. And I think it needs to come down that, you know, a lot of deals for all three presidents were probably made on that golf course. You know, but, you know, it's the one that you don't like is out there just, you know, living it up. And, you know, they, you know, as if the meetings can't follow them on Air Force One. It's set up to be a movable White House. I get that. And I get my own bias in that too. But I really feel that the attack on our founding fathers, it was shown in the riots where they're tearing down monuments were actually abolitionists. And one was Abraham Lincoln was being torn down. And the backstory was that it was donated and paid for by slaves in honor of Abraham Lincoln, and people are tearing it down. So I think that's something to be looked forward to, is that we just need more education through from the ground up of, you know, how are these elections supposed to work?
Right.
You know, how does the electoral college work?
And I agree, education. Now, I will say this. I have a very deep respect for Republican vigilance. So the idea that approximately 35% of our country is not able to shine light on this, I can't imagine. They know about this stuff. They've got lawyers, they've studied it, they know. So it's not like we have to worry that they are uneducated about how this works. They will fight for this. As a matter of fact, Angelina told me one time, she'll probably kill me for saying this, but she had two different lawyers in her divorce. And the first one was kind of weak. And the second one was kick ass. And after she watched the Kavanaugh hearing and something like that, she says, if I ever need a lawyer, my first question is going to be, are you a conservative Republican? And if they say no, she's leaving. She will not hire them ever. She says she has such respect for the vigilance and the fervor and the way they will get their thing done. So I believe that you're right, that there's a lot of uneducation. And I believe that the conservatives and the Republicans know a lot about what this stuff is. And if there is stuff that needs to be dealt with, and not only irregularities, but some unconstitutional state stuff that went down, I don't think it'll be you and me that uncover it. It'll be due diligence. And I have no doubt in my mind they will leave no stone unturned, even if it means we have 4 years of Biden and then we find out that there was overwhelming evidence. I don't expect that to happen, but it could. It happened. Like I said, it happened with the Bush Gore thing. In hindsight, they kind of went, holy shit, there was something here, but they didn't do anything with it. Maybe they did make some different laws. They probably did, the people that were fighting for that. I trust and respect your side of the field so much that I have no doubt that if there was irregularities and if there were unconstitutional bullshits that happened, it will get discovered. I just want us to do it with assembly. And
you have more respect for them than I do.
Oh, well, I mean, you're an example. You know a lot about this stuff. I don't think you're more knowledgeable than your Republican leaders.
It's not that I don't think they're knowledgeable. I think that they do not. Some of them, I'm grouping them, which we promised not to do. I think there are certain of them that their term limit is up, Yeah, there's my yellow flag against my party. They've been there too long. There's too many special interests. I do like Matt Gaetz from Florida. He doesn't take any PAC money. I'm sure there's many, Democrats that don't as well. And, when you take money from an organization, there's a payback that they want. And, we need to get back, and I'm sure they've been saying it for 100 years of, the people put you there, do what the people said. The prime example, I think, is Liz Cheney. I mean, 70% of her constituents voted for Trump, and she's out there like, impeach, 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 impeach. In fact, they've called her back to Wyoming and she's not going, and they censor her. And to me, if you are not, you can't be not that you can't be a Republican, but I don't think that you should be the third highest Republican if you don't reflect the people that you are fighting for. And I have no problem with, I don't agree with the Republican platform anymore, and I'm going to become a Democrat. I would respect that more. And I would respect it. I'm sure you would too. You don't want someone that is, says you're on their team, but they really aren't. And I think there's a lot of, I didn't feel like there were a lot of never Bushers, but there are a lot of never Trumpers. Mm-hmm. And I think they played a big role in not getting what I would consider fair outcomes or fair protections that the leader of our party should have had. People should have been fighting for him harder than they would have. Now, what I like about Democrats is they stick together. I mean, you have a pounding war between Bernie Sanders and whoever beats him out, and Bernie Sanders is there. Now I know they're having, AOC has very different views, I believe, than Nancy Pelosi, and she's trying to balance that. But they stick together in their votes, and they stick together with supporting who they support. Now, if it's disingenuous or whatever, that's not for me to say, but I do have to say that I respect that they support each other. And I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I respect that they fight for each other. And I don't think that some in the Republican Party do. I think that they have their own interests ahead of the American people.
Let me share an idea about that, because this is very interesting, because most of my blue friends, when we talk about this, we go, the one thing the Republicans got is they know how to stick together. Those Republican senators, they voted like Mitt Romney and Ben Sass and Cheney, regardless of what they say, and Susan Collins, regardless of what they say, they vote 95% with Trump on everything. And why can't we get Democrats to do that? What they do is they get together and do it, as Obama called it, a circular firing squad, where they're picking off other Democrats in the fight and kicking out Al Franken because a couple of women said that he made a sexual suggestion. And the Republicans, man, they promote Steve King to a high position of honor, and they promote, Marjorie Taylor Greene, head of education, even though she believes all the kids that got shot in Sandy Hook and Parkland were all actors. It's like, so we don't need to talk about this, because this is potato, because we,
like that conversation at Denny's.
We on the left think that y'all got your shit together when it comes to loyalty, and y'all think the opposite. And that's hysterical.
And I'm sure that all would say that the media is not on our side, but I think that a lot needs to be done we talked about this too. I'm like, it used to be, I heard Rand Paul saying it, and I'm not happy with Rand Paul right now either, but he was with Stephanopoulos, and Stephanopoulos is like, there was a lie, that's based on a lie, and of course I'm yelling at the TV, oh, you didn't prove it. But which, I don't have to let go of it, but it doesn't do anybody good for me to go on and on about it. So that said, he was like, wait a minute.
I saw that interview.
Yeah, he was like, wait a minute, it used to be in journalism that I would have my side, you would find someone that had the different outlook, and you'd let us, debate it out. But now you're inserting yourself, and everybody's a liar that doesn't agree with you. And, I'll give it to Stephanopoulos when I think Biden was saying he didn't know anything about the Michael Flynn investigation. And he went on and on and on about something else. And Stephanopoulos stood up and said, well, on the January 14th document that just released, it says you were in the office at the time. And he goes, oh, I didn't understand that question. But at least he asked him, I'm like, and so I think that we have elevated or let the media elevate themselves. Even I saw a Fox News thing with a reporter that I like, an anchor person that I like, and she didn't know her mic was hot. And she was listening to an internal meeting, and the people were saying in this meeting, we need to be careful, just because CNN or we or other people say that, who's won the election, we don't call the elections, the American people do, or the electors do. And on her mic, she looked and she goes, Trace, we've already called the election. This is ridiculous. And I'm like, who do you think you are? And that's someone that I like, I'm like, no, you don't call the election, sweetheart. You had one vote.
Right. Well, typically from my understanding, first, let's talk about a couple of things we have in common. Raise your hand, everybody in this podcast that believes term limits for Congress. Okay. So there we go. We're definitely on board with that. There was something else you said that I totally agreed with as well. But what was your last comment? From my understanding, as long as I've been looking at elections, the Associated Press and the American news system has had people checking these votes that have come up in the states, and they don't call it until it looks like it's an almost impossibility for what we have seen going now, given the 4% that's left, what counties they're left in, that it's going to change. Now, that doesn't mean they haven't made a false call. I know that Fox was the first one to call Arizona. When you saw the Electoral College vote, CNN and MSNBC and see, when we were flipping through them, Biden had less votes than what Fox News showed. But I do believe it's not like the news is certifying the election. I think the news in general, the American news, for as long as I've been alive, has said, okay, here's our numbers, here's the facts, here's the data, here's the statistic, not taking into account cheating. Obviously, they didn't, but taking into account what appears to be, based on this, Biden has won Arizona. Now, that doesn't mean
they didn't call Florida, who had a 98% of the vote, and he was up by 8 points. So that's why people stopped watching Fox. The guy they showed was so arrogant, and we're like, there's only 40% of the counties in. We just couldn't understand. And he was so smug, and all 20 of his team have been fired. I think because Fox has been, their ratings have, plummeted. But it was the fact that it's not just the fact that they called Arizona. It was that the other states that were completely, up by, double digits, but it wasn't going anywhere else. They refused to call those counties, but they were calling this one. And then it turned out to be one that was in question. And I think it was his smugness and arrogance and the fact that he wouldn't call Florida. And I think that the projection polls that were so wrong in 2016, so wrong 2020, they do feel like suppression polls when you look at actual voter turnout. Also could be that people were afraid to say they were going to vote for Trump because, you were an idiot.
I didn't, I know that 2016, there was obviously a huge 70% kind of America said Hillary's our next president. I did see that. However, from what I remember of the projection, they had, according to polls, that Hillary was going to win by 5 million votes, and she won by 3 million. So to me, that's not that off, even though they thought she was going to get the Electoral College. 2020 didn't seem that off, because everything I heard from all the news stations was that based upon the mail-in ballots, which are higher than they've ever been in the history, and based upon the fact that liberals and Democrats tend to use mail-in ballots way more, that it was going to go popular vote and electoral college likely towards Biden. And that's the way it turned out. The challenge was in both of those elections is we on the left thought Trump had lost in 2016 until about 3 a.m. You on the right thought that Trump had won in 2020 until actually the next night. And that's really painful for anybody to watch their team have, I'll use a football analogy, watch their team be up by like 14 points and only 2 minutes left on the clock, and then watch that son of a bitch from the other side do a couple of interceptions or something, you know.
His name is Doug
well,
Flutie.
it also
That's
comes
his
out
name.
of the
What's his name?
His name is Doug Flutie.
Doug Flutie. Okay.
I like him.
So
But it also
yeah.
comes out too with the warnings by even Jimmy Carter, that whole thing that him and Jim Baker did, that mail-in voting is so dangerous. And so even the Amazon, is it Bezos? He just said that they want some big election. I think it's about wanting to be unionized. And he says, we're not doing mail-in, we're not doing, you have to come in and vote, and I think that it was a big push that I think that it brings me to Saul Alinsky. You take any crisis and you go with it. We have COVID. Well, they can go to Walmart and then go to church and then go but they can't come in and vote.
And again,
they have so many people, the dead people on their voter registers. Some people went in to vote and, oh, sorry, you've already voted. Like,
so again, I think moving forward from this, that's what we need to focus on. What can we do to make our voting system better? That's where I would go. And so many of the folks that contact me privately, especially my QAnon folks, which I have about 20 people, including one of my best friends in the world, they're not talking about changing voter laws. They're talking about getting Biden out of this office at all means. That scares me. That's where I'm at.
Well, and I'm at the point now where it's voter laws. At the time, I'm like, we can't afford to wait. Look at it now. I don't want the machines on the 20th. I want them, on November 7th or whatever. And but now, if they proved it and they kicked Biden out of office, I would think that justice was served. If he doesn't,
I could see that. I could see that if overwhelming evidence came out.
And it would have to be overwhelming. Absolutely.
Yeah, as long as it's not storming the Capitol to prevent politicians from doing their job. That's the big thing. So yeah, I think we're kind of on the same page there.
You guys have been amazing. A couple things that you both have mentioned is media bias. You guys have touched on this a lot, and you've also touched on censorship. And are some people being censored legally, or is it illegal? Is it fair, not fair? And where does the media bias come into that? Obviously, some of these media outlets, their bias is changing. We've talked a lot, and I've shared with Laurie the allsides.org chart. And I've talked about the algorithms that they use to do that. And Laurie, you've disagreed on some of that, but I'd like to talk about the media bias and the censorship and what's really going on there.
Well, I'll speak to it a bit because Laurie has definitely shared a lot of stuff, much of which I agree with about it. I have a little bit of a unique view about that because, in my opinion, if you take all the media, it's pretty balanced. If you take all the mainstream media, it's way left. But I'm talking about talk radio and the Alex Joneses and the Rush Limbaughs and all that, and you take it all into account, all the media, I would say it's pretty balanced. We have some left, a bunch of left, let's say 30% left, 30% right, and maybe 40% that was somewhere in the middle. CNN and Fox, I would use as an example of CNN has a left-leaning media, and then they have a little more journalistic media. Fox News has a right-leaning media, and then they have more journalistic music. MSNBC probably way left. When you take ABC, NBC, Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC and CBS, from just those 6 organizations, you're looking at 5 against 1, kind of, and Fox being so in the middle. When my favorite mainstream media thing on the planet is Michael Smerconish, who comes on CNN for an hour, and Chris Wallace, Fox News Sunday, who comes on about an hour. So 1 hour a week for each of them, and then 23 hours a week for the other shit. But so I do believe that it's balanced overall. But what is accessible to mainstream media on cable is out of balance. And I totally agree with Laurie in the idea that we need to have some objectivity back in our news, where they're reporting the who, what, when, and leave the freaking why out of it. That's not their job. Tell us the data. That's what I love about Smerconish. He says, I'm a facts and data guy. You decide what they mean. Okay. I'm going to give you the facts and I'm going to give you the data. Now, of course, some of that could be spun as well, but we really, really need to get back to the original kind of news thing. So that's my take on the bias. The bias hurts everybody. What was the other question you were talking about? There was one other thing, Doug.
Suppression and censorship on media outlets and social media.
Okay. I'm not that's above my pay grade in some areas. From what I have seen,
I don't think we get paid for this podcast, by the way.
That's true. So everything's above my pay grade
when
it comes to being purple. I
haven't gotten the checks.
When I think of the First Amendment, let's just go to the First Amendment. I don't think of these platforms as First Amendment. First Amendment means the Congress shall make no law that limits somebody's freedom of speech. So what these other companies do, it does seem to all be legal. I don't personally think the media overall is censoring people because they have a leaning. I think the media, if anything, like deplatforming people, is saying, I'm not saying they're right, we believe that what this person is saying is dangerous, hateful, or violence inciting. And because of that, we're removing them. I don't think that's illegal. I don't even think it's necessarily unfair. What I do think is unfair is if somebody wants to go speak at a college, like an Ann Coulter type, and my buddy Bill Maher, who is a mixed bag of worms for me, because I see him as doing great work because of the people and the discussions he has on his show, yet I see him as an agitator and a shamer and a lot of things that I don't like about him. But he has been a staunch supporter of free, balanced opinions and against canceling of people, especially strong conservative views like Ann Coulter's at colleges, where that's when kids need to be developing their open-mindedness the most, way more than when they're older. Let's get them there. Let's let them see these 2 points of view so they, hear from somebody that believes in something that they don't, and it was going to try to make sense. So I don't know. I don't think what's been going on lately is necessarily unfair. I certainly don't think it's illegal. I do, however, believe that if there is unfairness and illegality, it needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be voted and legislation if necessary. So that's my feeling on the censorship that has been going on with QAnon and Proud Boys, Stop the Steal. Again, I don't think that George Stephanopoulos, my 2 favorite words are Stephanopoulos and Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos, that guy. Remember that coffee boy? Trump's coffee boy.
Papadopoulos. And Snuffleupagus, don't forget him.
And Snuffleupagus from, what is that? Dr. Seuss?
Sesame Street.
Oh, yeah, Sesame Street. So what my issue was not censoring are calling people liars that said there's been some irregularities and we need to check this. My challenge was that it was very, very blanketed. It was stolen, which is the same thing as declaring Biden the winner before the votes came in. That would have been wrong. Once the votes came in, then it looks like they kind of said, okay, based on what we can see, to say that the thing was stolen without the courts and due process, to me, was a lie. To say there's some irregularities and we're concerned that this thing might not have been legit, that to me was not a lie. But stop the steal, this was stolen, sounds like a lie to me.
And there is legislation, and I think it will get passed now. I can't remember the exact name of it, but Twitter and Facebook can't be sued because they're just putting out what people say and not being editors. They have turned into editors where they get to decide what is harmful speech and what is not harmful speech. The problem I have is that it seems to be very one-sided. And one of them is like, well, you can go out and create your own platform. So Parler comes about, and well, the website closes down and won't let them, put up any of their stuff. Well, I can't, I'm not Apple, I'm not, Zuckerberg, I can't come up with my own platform. So you can't say that you're not being an editor when it's very one-sided. Like I've seen, Ayatollah has a Twitter account, the Communist Chinese Party throwing all this crap on Twitter. And sorry, I said crap, don't put that in there.
Oh, shit, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
But I do think they're going to be coming under legislation because they have deviated from what they said they were. They're no longer, let's just get up and let discussion happen and let people, decide for themselves.
So I support that. I do support that. If there's something going that is not cool, let's just say it that way, then I do support looking into it and seeing if some laws have been broken and seeing if there's unfair stuff. To me, it seems like they are trying to protect keep libel, slander, misinformation, and violence inciting speech off their platforms. And if like, I give an example, I have a public page, my Facebook page, but I'm the manager. And in general, I just let people talk. But if I see stuff in there that looks like generalizations that are not purple, I let them know. I say either edit what you wrote or I will delete it. And I've been accused of a censor person. I don't believe in the absolute that censorship is wrong. I believe that there are times when allowing it does more damage. And now we get into the nuance of which one is it right now. I don't know which one it is, but I trust that the people that you listen to will follow through with this and make sure that it's not hanky-panky.
And it's a slippery slope. One day I can say, if I'm in charge, if I'm Zuckerberg, and I overnight change my politics, well, this is very, very unsafe over here, and then it's the other side that feels censored.
Sure. Slippery slope.
It's so, and Zuckerberg gave $500 million or $1 billion to help Democrats with their elections, and that is provable.
Okay.
And then to say, and it wasn't just stop the steal, it was everything that I would put about the election, and this is way before the electors or whatever, it would pop up Joe Biden, and click here and see how elections are fair, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't need that to label on there. I'm just, speaking my opinion, and then Jim Jordan finds out he's putting all of this stuff out there and nobody can see it because they've shadow banned him, and to me, you have become what, you have this huge, wide open freedom that Congress gave you that the New York Times does not have. I can go out and I can sue the New York Times. I can't sue Twitter because they have this protection. But now that they have become editors, I do believe that depending on, where the votes all lay and who, big tech got a lot of big jobs in the Biden administration, as the media got with the Obama administration. And it just, you hide, where people worked and where they came from. It's just, and it doesn't seem like, you don't know what's fair and what's going to happen. What should happen is, if you are editing, then you should be under the same laws as the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, anything else. And if you say something that's wrong, you should be sued. And I don't believe that, if you're going to let the communist Chinese, party, they have prison camps for Uyghur Muslims right now. And the president of the free world can't get on his Twitter page.
So
I for me,
I
that
don't know all those nuances. I don't know a lot about the nuances, but God, do I respect your side of the field their ability to point them out. And I trust that there will be pushback. And that's,
I think so too.
that's what I tend to be trusting that it's gonna get exposed if there's hanky panky.
And they've already had many, many, many debates in Congress or whatever. They just haven't pulled the trigger, so to speak, of what they're going to do. And I think now this might be the trigger point of, now you have censored people. And I don't think they've done anything illegal, because you can't be, it's that the government can't censor you. But now they're almost bigger than the government. They are controlling what we are allowed to hear. And, in fact, I was very angry this morning, because I wanted to be freshened up on the things I'd heard at the hearing. I couldn't find them on YouTube. And I was like, I'll be damned. And I finally had to put in the exact count. It used to be, and things are not showing up. And so I just feel like you can't, how do I know what I'm researching is fact?
Right.
I even go to different browsers, and that's dangerous in my opinion, where, like you said, tell me what you think, tell me what they said. Don't tell me what you think. Tell me what they said. Tell me what law they, passed or whatever, and let me decide whether or not it's good for me and my family and the country, and whether it's not. It's much easier when my world was rosy and what Fox News made a lot of sense, and I can go to sleep at night because everybody agrees with me. Well, for me, it's not a good way to live, and I need to research for myself. I need to, grow up and care about what's happening more than just, oh, I heard it on the TV. I saw it on Twitter. I saw it on Facebook. I got completely off of Facebook.
The good news is that because of a lot of the stuff that you and I are pushing back against, the people of the US are more involved than they have ever been in my lifetime. Look, Angelina and I never talked politics until 2015. We talked maybe a little bit in 2012 when neither one of us could vote for Obama for the second term, which freaked out our liberal friends. We said, no, we don't feel like we don't feel that our country is united under this man. I'm not blaming him that it's not united. I didn't hear as much what I would call a divisive speech, but I heard plenty of stuff that was leaning to blah, blah, blah. And so that's why we voted for the libertarian guy, because we asked the question, if you're an Obama person and you had a choice of Mitt Romney or Gary Johnson to win, well, they would always say Gary Johnson. Then I would ask my friends on the right, well, since you are a Mitt Romney person, who would you rather, Obama win or Gary Johnson? They say Gary Johnson. I say he wins. Both sides like him better than either side likes the other side. So that's why we went that route, and it wasn't an attack. And I really believe that when it all comes down, they will do with Trump to some extent what they've done with every president. They'll look in hindsight and they'll go, here are the list of the accomplishments. Here are the list of the failures, like every other president we've ever had. But there is definitely more enthusiasm and whatever the antonym of enthusiasm is when it comes to Donald Trump. And this makes this different. I believe the first impeachment was a cry wolf. I'm not so sure about this one. I know this. Many Republicans and Democrats do not like the idea that he can run again, and do not believe it's good for America that he would hold power again. And so if they do either convict, which I think is highly unlikely, or if they create something that says we're going to vote on his ability to hold office again and he's not able to, then I will trust that it'll be however many people do that. Hopefully it's a 2/3 vote kind of thing.
And I think it should be up to the American people if they want to vote him in and he can have a second term and he wins.
Yeah, and
because
I think
there's so many agendas in Congress, and it goes back to term limits. I don't think that you need to be writing, the legislators can write laws, but the Constitution says if he's not convicted, he can run again. And I
Right.
think that,
If
I
it's
mean, I
legal,
think it will be, I mean, if you saw the rallies around the country, the man was well liked. He was
Yeah.
hated and he was well liked. And, you know, people, you know, the jobs that he, you know, he did, and, you know, there's very many accomplishments, you know, and you can look over here and the fact checkers will say, well, those aren't accomplishments. But that's where I'll disagree. So I don't think that it should be just said, okay, he's not allowed to run anymore. That should
well,
be an
no, it would
American
have to be a
people type of
process,
vote.
just like removing the monuments. I don't like the idea of tearing monuments down. I do like the idea of state legislatures get together and
Me too.
and overwhelmingly vote to keep them or not keep them. That's how I look at this Trump thing. If they overwhelmingly vote to keep him or not keep him, the people have voted for these people that are doing that vote on their behalf.
Wow. 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 Let me
That's
ask you
fun.
this. It reminds me a lot about that documentary that we've all seen now, A Social Dilemma, where you can type in the same thing in a search, like on Google, and get different results depending on what part of the country you're living in, or depending on your history, or if you are maybe on the web somewhere, on an app, on Amazon, and you're searching through things, and all of a sudden you see something advertised to you that you've never typed into a browser, but you said yesterday, and Alexa was listening. I mean, that's some scary stuff.
Yeah, it is. Who
and
agrees
so
that's scary?
Yeah.
I put VPN on my phone. I was like, that's not something that I would do, but I'm like, but someone sent it to me. I'm like, what is that? So I put it on my phone. But it's like so funny, like someone else, like you don't even, you know, they're just talking about something and it shows up, oh, you like this on Facebook. I'm like,
Yeah.
Thank you,
my
Social
God,
Dilemma. Thank you, Great Hack. I think it was called The Great Hack.
Yes.
Thank you for both of them. I do believe that these platforms, all of them, start out with a good intention. I want to bring people together. And then the virus gets into them. And we'll call that an algorithm. The algorithmic virus gets in. And yeah, so hey, we have a lot in common, you wonderful people.
Yeah. I want to end with well, it's actually it was the end of the presidency. It was the very last thing that Trump did, and that is pardons. And I would like to talk about the pardons and what you all thought of them, not only if you agreed or disagreed with who he did or did not pardon, but the whole issue of should a president have that power to make pardons?
Yes.
Yes.
Talk to me about what you thought of what his pardons were.
Well, first off, I want Laurie and I to say the same thing. Elections have
consequences.
Exactly.
It's like you got prepared for this.
Look, if I limit Trump's pardoning power, it's going to bite me in the ass. I remember when the Democrats decided that they only needed a simple majority in the Senate for certain things so they could push their shit through. And then McConnell said, oh yeah, I'm going to run with that shit. So yeah, we have to be careful. Just like Laurie was saying, censorship. We start censoring the right. We're all in the same swimming pool. So that urine that happened over there is going to get on all of us. Anyway.
And my view on his pardons takes us into a whole other thing with who he pardoned and why. and the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, and why I think that the pardons that he gave were well deserved. I don't know all of the pardons he made, but the ones that I do know of, with all the documents that are coming out, and especially
Little Wayne.
yeah, Little Wayne. I mean, my God, I have been pleading Little Wayne's case for years. I don't even know who. I don't know why he pardoned him. To tell you the truth, I really didn't care. I'm sure he's fine.
And I'm the same way. I didn't really care that much. I was concerned that Trump would pardon people like himself for future issues. That scared me a little, but that didn't happen. I also was concerned that he would pardon the QAnon shaman or anybody else that was storming the Capitol on his behalf, that said they were storming on his behalf.
And I think that goes towards our perception of, and it would go both ways, our perception of Trump and both of our perceptions of Obama. I probably would have been afraid of that with Obama. I don't think, and I don't know if it's a good thing or not, I don't think Trump thinks he's wrong. So he would have no reason to pardon himself in the future.
Good.
And I think that I can see that as, is that hubris, or is that he really thinks that he, didn't do anything wrong? But I would have been, I could say the exact same thing of Obama, which I think that's funny. But that I'm looking now, like equal justice amongst the law, where oh gosh, his name, Kevin
McCarthy?
Kevin Kleinsman.
Oh, Italian guy.
He was an FBI person that doctored, he was going after Carter Page. Carter Page this was before he was on kind of an outside, but giving counsel to the Trump campaign. And they were looking at him for ties to Russia. And he was talking to the Russians. He had some shady characters in the Russian, some Russians or whatever. And so the FBI emailed the CIA, does Carter Page work for you? Or is he doing things for you? The email came back and it is declassified. Yes, he is working for us. Kevin Kleinsman went in and took out the yes and put in no, we have no workings with him, which ruined this man's life. And he got probation after admitting to it and lying to the government and the FISA court. What does that tell people about the FISA court? Lie all you want, you're going to get probation. And then,
I'm in your camp. Equal justice under the law.
Equal justice under the law. That's all I think any of us can ask for. And I don't think that it's a shame where you have to look at who appointed the judge of, what you think the outcome might be.
Speaking of that, I am very impressed with a lot of judges that I've seen, including and especially the 3 Trump appointees, because they appear all the fears that the left had about them. Oh my God, it's going to be a 6-9. Business as usual. They follow their hearts. They don't always agree, but they did not go for Trump the way a lot of lefties thought that they did that. So I feel pretty confident in the character of our 9 Supreme Court justices. What about you, Laurie?
Justice Roberts, I do not.
Okay.
I felt
I'll take 8. I'll take 8 into 9. I'll take 8.
I do feel very confident in the 3 that were under the Trump. I do think that there was so much that they were going to be biased. And they're the court that is there for life. They really couldn't go for Trump. And Chief Justice, and I'll tell you the reason why, is that when Obamacare was coming out, they were saying, this is not a tax, this is not a tax, this is not a tax. Put it before the Supreme Court, and Chief Justice tells them, well, if this was a tax, it would be legal. So they took all of their things, changed it to a tax, and that from right there, I'm like, I don't trust that guy. And to just not even hear the case of what the American people are upset about, and you could just put it to bed right now. Look at evidence on both sides, declare your ruling. They don't want any part of it. And to me, that was a Justice Roberts call that I don't know if the 3 new ones felt they could go against. I know that Thomas and Alito gave their dissents. And I think that was a political football that they punted on, and they cost our country a lot of unity that they could have brought. Because if Biden had won, in my opinion, fairly, hats off to Biden, and I shouldn't have said it that way, but if it had been, nothing screwy, nothing wrong, he came out, this, whatever,
Well, don't hold your breath for nothing screwing and nothing wrong when it comes to the United States government.
And my sister told, I'm like, I've just seen, and a lot of things have gone on with my nephew. And I'm like, I just have lost faith in that you can find any justice anywhere. And she was like, you just are coming up with that now. I'm like, I guess I have a rosy look of the world, but I do like too. The Supreme Court justices. And I do think they were, kind of in a bad point of, whatever they did, they were going to be criticized by either side. And what do you think, Doug?
Yes, I yield to the gentleman from Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
The New Yorker. I love me some New Yorkers.
I'm a New Yorker, although I live in Florida. Okay. And currently I'm in Tennessee. So, I do have a brother and a soon-to-be sister-in-law in Massachusetts, if that counts for anything. I'd just like to say, first of all, we could continue this and continue talking on many different points in the future if you both would like to, and I would love to if that's what you want. I will say today has gone tremendously well, and I want to hear your opinion about how today went compared to some of the conversations that you may have heard about or been a part of with other friends and maybe non-purple folk. But before we go there, Laurie, I'd just like to share with you that you are the kind of person, you said we've all lost faith in some of the system. You're the kind of person, and I've said this to you before, that I think needs to be in the system. You're the kind of person that has such an incredible passion for what you're talking about. And yet you want to do it fairly. Like you said, if you felt that Biden had won fair and square, so be it. You're fine with that. You don't feel like it happened fair and square, and so you want to fight against the injustices, and that's the kind of person I think that we do need out there, because the fact is we do have this system. As imperfect as it may be, it's ours, and it's probably ours for a long time. And so you're the kind of person.
I hope it's ours for a long time. I'm down at the moment, and I'm a little heartbroken at the moment, but I think it's the best system that is out there. And I think that things tend to correct themselves. And, bad things have happened all throughout our history that, we've come back from. And obviously you're not thinking it's my belief that I think that this was a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing that the rioting and the storming the Capitol, and we've come back from it. I mean, we've come back from a lot of graver things, and I really think that I love to visit Washington. I'm a big fan of history, and I just loved going to Monticello, and I loved going to the Washington's home or whatever, and seeing all of that and reading their documents. And that is my biggest push, is that we can have a whole nother show on testing, but there's a lot more to education than math and reading, and if it's obviously you have to be able to read, but why don't we read some stuff in civics?
Right.
And and know what your country stands for.
Everything I know about politics and the government, I learned from Hamilton, 1776, and most recently, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
I love him. I have not seen Hamilton. I know you're just going to be like shunning me.
Well, not shunning you, but I will share this. One of my dearest, what I would call very similar to you in outlook. Y'all think very much alike. What you believe is similar. What you espouse is similar. and she did not want to watch Hamilton because of the way they treated Mike Pence when he went to see it. And Angelina, when I took her husband fishing, Angelina goes, "Do me a favor. I have Disney Plus. I'll hook it up to your TV. Give me 10 minutes. If you don't like what you see, turn it off." She loved it. She loved it.
I did. Now I want to see it, but that
when
is
I
so
look at it with my purple lens, I see it. I wouldn't call it purple. It's just American history in a weird way of presentation, but I don't think it leans left or leans right. Although it's acted and sung by Hollywood Broadway. I mean, by Broadway liberals. Duh.
And I have broadened my horizons to see the difference. I will see Hamilton. I've heard from everybody that not only is it excellent, but accurate. And you're right. It wasn't Hamilton. It was the actors that offended me. And I do need to meet your friend.
Oh yeah. I grew up with her husband.
I didn't watch it.
I grew up with her husband, and I'm going to say something to you, Laurie, that her husband said to me when I was in Maine with him. We've known each other since we were 10. He was the tuba player. I was the snare drum player in 7th grade band. We became friends. I started dating his sister. They are my closest family in my world, other than my bio family. And what he said to me when we got into a discussion one time about politics, and I was teaching him about what purple meant to me, he goes, "Armand," and I'll say this to you with pure sincerity, "Laurie, I would agree with everything you said today, but then we'd both be wrong."
But I would be okay with that.
Oh my Lord.
I would just like to thank you, Armand, that you were just so delightful and I was anxious just because I didn't want it to become like frustrating, and it wasn't. I have so enjoyed this. Great idea, Doug. And I've always known you to be a gracious, wonderful person, Armand. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and, I wasn't given anything. Don't say this, don't say that. I hope I don't get you guys like knocked off of your podcast.
No, we need you. We actually need you.
Buzzwords.
Yeah.
We need you to appeal.
This it's been great because I have a dear friend of mine who always says that whenever we try to give conservative views on the podcast, it's coming from a liberal space. And that friend of mine says, "That's not what conservatives think. That's not what they think." I don't know who that was. I can't remember her name.
Rhymes with Smari.
Real, it sounds like that. Yeah. So, and it's funny.
Fair, you asked.
I did. That's true. I did.
Because you have really wanted, both of you have really wanted your show to be real.
Yeah.
We do. And anytime that I thought there might be something that might be a little non-purple that came out of either of your mouths today, you always said, "I feel." And I'm not so sure, Armand, that we've ever approached that, but those two words take away all of the non-purple possibility because you're acknowledging it's how you feel. It's not a hard, cold fact, and so it's just a wonderful way that you two approach the conversation today. So thank you for that.
Well, and everything I learned in kindergarten. So
okay. Well, another thing that I want to hail Laurie on something too, since we had some email conversations, when she made a point that sounded at sometimes like she was making a definitive statement about something that wasn't definitive, she always followed up with, "Or was it?" That's the same thing. So thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have an award winner today, Armand, for the Purple Evolution Award?
You won! You did it! You did it! I knew you would! I just knew you would!
I'm just going to piggyback back to Tom Brady. That's his name, right? For disagreeing with Trump on politics and considering it as a disagreement with his friend on politics and not chastising or disowning his friend.
Nice. And I am going, go ahead, Lo.
Here,
I
here.
thought you were going to say something. I'm going to add a second one because I think it's incredibly important. By far, this episode's Purple Evolution Award goes to you, Laurie, because not only were you willing to be purple, but you were willing to do it in front of, I mean, what we have, like, I think we have 116 million viewers now, Armand.
Yeah.
I think it's up to 116 million. And you were willing to go in front of the world and have this
I'm hoping to
conversation.
get my own show. Thank you. I take that with much, much, much gratitude.
Yeah, it's bold and it's
We're not
and
worthy.
vulnerable.
We're not worthy. We suck.
You are.
I don't know if Angelina was prepared for a quote today or not, Armand. If not, that's okay.
I love her quote. She's the
Hey,
cutest
honey,
girl.
do you have a quote? I think I saw one of your quotes on the printer.
So here is the quote for today. You can tell more than one story about what's happening, but what's undeniable is that something is broken in our country. Badly, badly broken. It reminds me of when Notre Dame burned, except this time it's us. It's yours and mine. It's our country. It's our heartland. Sorry. And it's worse, much worse, because it wasn't an accidental fire. And that quote is from April Lawson.
Now I'm going to cry. It's a very good quote.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, it's going back. Anyway, thanks everybody.
It's been
Enjoyed it.
absolutely fantastic. Armand, do you want to take us out today?
Okay, here's the deal. Our politicians are doing what they do. But the bottom line, if we want to take our country back and make it as great as possible, it's going to require each of us to get together and work with people that think differently than we do and try to find some common ground so the people that represent us will be representing that as well versus representing our side of the field. Boom.
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 Remember, there are good people in the world. If you can't find one, be one. Let's make America civil again.
When they're right people, I don't know when they're wrong people. We're all different shades of humanity. I don't know when they're liberal people. I don't know when they're conservative people. We're all different shades of humanity. Let me tell you now, we are all the same. One race.
No politicians were harmed in the making of this podcast.
The Purple Evolution would love to hear from you. Please contact us by visiting thepurpleevolution.org. You can send us an email, post a comment, ask a question, make a recommendation or a critique on our webpage, become a patron, or even shop for Purple Evolution products and gifts from our store. We are just one click away. thepurpleevolution.org. That's thepurpleevolution.org. We look forward to your visit.